Welcome, 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 everyone. Welcome back to NAWBO on the Go. My name is Tanya Shagnon, and with me today, I have our National Advocacy Chair, Miss Thresette Briggs from our Indianapolis chapter. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you, Tanya. It's a
I
pleasure to
love
be
that.
here.
Well, I always love having you on the other side of the microphone with me. We're going to jump right in. The SAVE Act. This is something that we're starting to hear a little bit about. Can you tell me exactly what that SAVE Act is?
Sure. The SAVE Act, or the Safeguard American Voter Act, it requires individuals to provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship when they are registering to vote in federal elections. The legislation also establishes new requirements for photo identification when voting in federal elections. And so it passed the House on February 11, 2026, and is now in the Senate awaiting a vote.
So what is its goal?
The goal of the SAVE Act is to enhance voter registration and voting procedures by requiring documentary proof of citizenship or registration and photo identification when voting in a federal election. It's important to note that studies examining instances of non-citizen voting have generally found relatively few confirmed cases. For example, analyses of election fraud databases and state audits have identified limited verification that there's instances of large voter fraud in populations.
Perfect. Is NAWBO in support of this act?
NAWBO supports voter integrity and free and fair elections, and we believe that the impact to women business owners could be substantial, considering that some of the requirements require women who are married to have additional verification that could take weeks or months, and it could disparately impact their ability to vote on who represents them and their business ownership.
That's kind of crazy. Um,
Yeah,
we're,
it could be a challenge for women business owners.
what does the SAVE Act mean for me?
Well, under the current federal law, individuals registering to vote to attest under penalty of perjury that they are U.S. citizens, and the Save America Act will replace that with a requirement that applicants present documentary proof of citizenship when registering or updating their registration for federal elections. So applicants registering or updating their voter registration for federal elections must present that proof, such as a passport, birth certificate, or naturalization papers. And many commonly held forms of identification, including standard state issued driver's license, wouldn't qualify unless they explicitly verify citizenship. So real IDs from Michigan, Minnesota, New York, Vermont, and Washington are the only states with enhanced driver's license that show they're U.S. citizens. So this legislation would also mandate that women and all voters show an acceptable form of photo ID to participate in those elections. And individuals voting in person would need to present that ID at their polling location, while absentee voters would have to include a copy of a valid identification document both when applying for an absentee ballot and when submitting the completed ballot.
And I'm sure there's going to be a list of all of these forms of ID that we're going to need. Um, we will make sure that when all of this, um, if all of this takes effect, we'll have a list of those documents as well. What are the unintended consequences of the SAVE Act?
Well, according to the U.S. Department of State, examples of primary citizenship evidence include a birth certificate, as I mentioned earlier, a U.S. passport, a consular report of birth abroad, a certification of citizenship, or a naturalization citizenship or certificate. Many state-issued driver's license and real ID compliant identification cards don't indicate citizenship status. So as a result, voters may need to present additional documentation such as that passport, birth certificate, or naturalization certificate to meet the bill's proof of citizenship requirement. So although at least one of these documents is, in theory, available to most citizens, not all voters have them readily available. So according to recent studies, 9% of all eligible voters do not have or do not have access to documentary proof of citizenship. 52% of registered voters do not have unexpired passport with their current legal name. And 11% of registered voters do not have access to their birth certificate. So all this could mean if you're required to do that and you're a married woman who changed her name and does not have a passport, you will need to provide all of those documents, but we are not sure about the process at this time.
Wow,
Mhm.
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. And
That's
so
a
we
lot.
definitely see the potential for disparate impact to our women business owners who are part of NAWBO, which is one of the reasons we are partnering with organizations like WIP, Women in Public Policy, to advocate on behalf of women business owners and make sure that that does not disenfranchise them at the ballot box.
I love that. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for spending time with me today to explain the SAVE Act to us. And I'm sure we will be hearing much more about this. And listeners, don't you worry. We will be updating this in our advocacy podcasts as well. Thank you, Trisetta, so much for joining me today.
You're very welcome. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
And listeners, thank you as always for spending time with us. And I will see you back here super soon for our very next episode. Have a great day.